Passengers' misery as track repairs cause chaos on the lines. Trimble's relief as he wins showdown over peace agreement. And in sport, Sheringham's hat-trick keeps United on top.
From ITN, the ITV Weekend News and Sport with Katie Derham and Gabby Yorrock.
Good evening, welcome to the programme. Thousands of rail passengers have been faced with sheer chaos as Britain's rail network pressed ahead with its biggest programme of track repairs for a century. Many people were left stranded, not knowing when or even if their trains would turn up. And there could be even more disruption tomorrow. Linda Kennedy reports.
At London Euston, chaos was forecast and it came as cracked rails and speed clampdowns delayed travellers throughout Britain who got an apology but few details. So many waited without knowing how long.
Instead of taking approximately 2.5 hours either side, it's been taking up to 5 hours.
In Glasgow, at the other end of the West Coast line, there were complaints delays were simply sprung on them.
If there are cracks on the line, then obviously I want to go as slow as possible, but I think they could have given a bit more notice.
In Birmingham, waiting paid off, as eventually passengers were let through, but across the country few areas have escaped. The worst hit routes are London to the Midlands and the north, with delays of up to 2 hours. Virgin's West Coast line from the southwest up to the northwest in Scotland, 2-hour delays. Manchester to Scotland and Manchester to London, again 2-hour delays, and London to Yorkshire, delays of up to an hour. Only when 24 miles of track are replaced, fixing 1,800 cracks, will speed restrictions be removed. Today more than 270 are in place. Bad, but it will get better, insists Railtrack.
This will be the worst weekend. From Monday, the numbers of speed restrictions will come off as we carry out the extensive programme of track work and as we complete our testing programme.
At the crash site in Hatfield, work continues to clear that line. Preventing another tragedy is the purpose of the unprecedented safety programme, but that it's all come at once is what frustrates many passengers.
And though bad today, it could be worse tomorrow, with some operators talking of delays of 4 hours and beyond. And that's just a guess. With the knock-on of today's chaos, they're admitting they don't know how bad it could get. Linda Kennedy, ITN, Euston Station.
The Ulster Unionist leader, David Trimble, has narrowly won a crucial vote that could have led to the end of the Good Friday peace agreement. Hardliners had wanted to pull the party out of power sharing with Sinn Féin unless the IRA began decommissioning arms by next month. Here's Mark Webster.
Battle-weary David Trimble arrived here, prepared to ignite a fresh crisis in the peace process. Faced with the anger of many Ulster Unionists and the lack of progress by the IRA on destroying their huge cache of weapons, he received muted applause from the hall. But he won over enough of them with concessions to the hardliners and a warning that this was the last chance for the IRA to begin decommissioning.
Failure to keep promises is not a cost-free option. That's what we're saying to Sinn Féin. Not keeping your promises entails costs. You cannot sit through this process dishonouring your word and expect nobody to notice.
Inside, Unionists welcomed his decision to exclude Sinn Féin ministers from a joint body with Southern Ireland. Outside, the divisions within the Unionists were still on show. And Sinn Féin reacted angrily, saying the decision would undermine the peace process.
David Trimble put forward a proposition which is quite obviously a timetable for collapse. And a timetable for collapse is a timetable for disaster.
By winning the narrow support of his party yet again, Mr Trimble has saved the peace process from imminent collapse. However, there will only be a breathing space of weeks or maybe months, during which time the governments in London and Dublin will bring intense pressure to bear to try to get the concrete progress on decommissioning arms, which they've asked for. However, if that is not forthcoming, the Unionists have said there won't be another chance. Mark Webster, ITN, Belfast.
The families of 4 children killed in the Omagh bombing say they're launching a civil action against 4 suspects named in the television documentary. The suspects refused to answer questions about their movements on the day of the bombing, which killed 29 people 2 years ago. Police in Northern Ireland say they know who was behind the attack, but they don't have enough evidence to prosecute them. Zoe Jeffries, the young girl who's suffering from the human form of mad cow disease, was highlighted this week, has died. Her death comes amid fears that the number of cases could be significantly higher than first thought after an elderly victim was found to have died of variant CJD as well. John Ray reports.
It's only days since the mother of Zoe Jeffries invited television cameras into their home to show the enormity of her daughter's suffering. She died this morning just short of her 15th birthday. So far it's been young people like Zoe who have been thought most at risk from beef eaten before tougher safety measures were put in place. But now scientists are studying the case of a man of 74, 20 years older than any other known victim. It's too early for firm conclusions, though one expert warns he might have been infected 25 years ago, with alarming implications.
We really need to find out much more about this individual case. But if the incubation period is long, then we'll see possibly hundreds of thousands rather than just thousands in terms of cases.
The pensioner died last year, but his case was only later referred to the CJD surveillance unit, where it raises more questions than answers. Doctors and other health professionals are now being urged to show greater vigilance for signs of the disease. And officials here say some deaths so far attributed to senile dementia may have to be reassessed. John Ray, ITN, the Department of Health.
It's been revealed that Britain is sending one of its helicopter carriers to Sierra Leone to back up the United Nations peacekeeping force. HMS Ocean is expected to be sent back to the West African country on Monday. Canadian police have charged 2 men over the bombing of an Air India flight 15 years ago. It exploded off the coast of Ireland, killing all 329 people on board. Here's Richard Slee.
Arriving at a police station for questioning one of the 2 Sikh extremists arrested after raids on Sikh businesses in Vancouver. Rapudaman Singh Malik and Ajaib Singh Bagri are charged with bombing Air India Flight 182 off the coast of Ireland. The aircraft was due to land at Heathrow for a stop-off between Montreal and Delhi. The 2 men are also charged with attempting to bomb an Air India flight from Japan on the same day.
The RCMP alleged that both bombs originated or were placed on the respective flights originating from Vancouver, British Columbia, as the result of an alleged conspiracy taking place in part in the province of British Columbia.
It's thought the attacks were in revenge for the Indian Army raid on the Sikh Golden Temple in 1984. There's a large Sikh community in Western Canada, and the police say they expect to make more arrests. Richard Slee, ITN.
Now with all the latest sports news, here's Gabby. Thanks, Katie. Well, it's been a busy afternoon in the Premiership with plenty of goals. We'll go live to Old Trafford to hear about a thrilling game there in a moment. But first, let's take a closer look at 3 of today's other big games. Chelsea and Tottenham met at Stamford Bridge with the home side coming out on top 3-0 winners. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank opened the scoring after 13 minutes from the penalty spot. He later got Chelsea's third. Gianfranco Zola scored his 4th goal of the season on the way to Chelsea's win. Middlesbrough's rough time continued today. They lost 2-1 away at Ipswich. The Portman Road side are on a brilliant run, however, and this win moves them up to 5th place. Richard Naylor scored his 1st goal of the season after 26 minutes. Mark Venus got the 2nd 2 minutes later. Dean Gordon put Middlesbrough back into the game on 68 minutes, but it wasn't enough. In Scotland, runaway leaders Celtic don't play until tomorrow, but arch rivals Rangers wasted the chance to make up ground. They lost 3-0 against Kilmarnock at Ibrox. Christophe Kokade opened the scoring for the visitors. Gary Holt doubled the damage before half-time. Arthur Newman added to Rangers' woes when he tapped into his own net to make it 3-0 to Kilmarnock. Southampton had a tough match this afternoon away to Premiership leaders Manchester United. The Saints have only had 2 wins so far this season, and today they suffered a crushing 5-0 defeat. So let's go live to our sports correspondent Graham Miller, who's at Old Trafford. Graham, 5-0 looks like a whitewash. Were Southampton ever in the game?
No, they weren't. We all wondered whether Southampton would feel the full backlash of Manchester United's disappointment in Europe in the week, and so it proved. A Teddy Sheringham hat-trick and 2 more from Andy Cole did the damage. Mind you, Andy Cole's first goal was a bit of a gift. Paul Jones, the Southampton keeper, simply let the ball slip through his fingers. It means now that United have scored 22 goals so far in their first 6 Premiership games, and that certainly helped erase the memory of the performance they managed in Brussels in the week. And you know, the United players must have had a real ear-bashing from Sir Alex, because in his programme notes he talks about the disaster of Brussels, and that for him emergency signals were flashing. He'll certainly be a calmer man tonight. But you know, United were lucky to find a Southampton team who simply seemed to be overwhelmed by a record Premiership attendance here of over 67,500 people.
Well, Arsenal bagged 5 as well today. It's looking like a thrilling two-horse race, isn't it?
Isn't it just? And it's not the night to be a Manchester City fan. United winning 5 here, City going down 5-0 to Arsenal in London. And as you say now, a gap opening up at the top between United and Arsenal, United remaining in pole position because of their goal difference.
Thanks very much, Graham. OK, let's check on all the top results in England and Scotland. Starting with the FA Carling Premiership. Arsenal 5, Manchester City 0. Aston Villa 2, Charlton 1. Chelsea 3, Tottenham 0. Ipswich 2, Middlesbrough 1. Leicester 2, Derby 1. Manchester United 5, Southampton 0. Sunderland 1, Coventry 0. West Ham 1, Newcastle 0. Nationwide League Division 1, Bolton 3, Crystal Palace 3. Burnley Norwich was postponed. Gillingham 0, Crewe 1. Huddersfield 0, Blackburn 1. Portsmouth 1, Birmingham 1. Sheffield Wednesday 3, Fulham 3. Stockport 1, Nottingham Forest 2. Tranmere 1, QPR 1. Wimbledon 0, Sheffield United 0. Wolves 2, Watford 2. And the Bank of Scotland Scottish Premier League. Dundee United 0, Hibernian 1. Dunfermline 1, Dundee 0. Hearts 0, St Johnstone 3. Rangers 0, Kilmarnock 3. St Mirren 2, Aberdeen 0. So let's have a look at how things are shaping up at the top of the Premiership table. Well, Manchester United and Arsenal both on 24 points, 5 ahead of Leicester, who've moved up to 3rd. Liverpool, of course, play in the Merseyside derby tomorrow. Ipswich up to 5th position, and Chelsea, what a difference a week makes. Almost in the relegation zone just 7 days ago, now in 6th place. At the bottom of the Premiership table, Derby still to find that elusive win that would take them off the bottom of the table on 5 points. Bradford play in the West Yorkshire derby tomorrow. They're on 6 points. It's interesting times down there. On to the pools news now. 10 score draws, 7, 11, 12, 14, 16, 31, 36, 38, 48 and 49. 3 no score draws, 15, 35 and 39, and there are no results to come. The Rugby League World Cup kicked off today. In just over an hour, England take on the might of Australia at Twickenham. But this afternoon, it was Ireland's turn. They beat Samoa 30 points to 16. Ireland opened the scoring with this try from Luke Ricketson, who was making his international debut. Samoa fought back, but Ireland kept up the pressure in the second half to secure the victory. Racing and several meetings were cancelled today because of the bad weather, but the big race at Wetherby did go ahead. The Charlie Hall Chase was won by Seymour Business. The winner of the Gold Cup 2 years ago cruised home, showing he's back on top form once again. So the full SP, Seymour Business, the 3-1 on favourite, followed by Bobby Grant and Young Kenny, both on 9-1. That's the sport. Back to Katie. Thanks, Gabby. That's it for now. I'll be back with the latest news and sport at 10 to 8. Don't forget the clocks go back tonight. But for now, from both of us, goodbye. Bye-bye.
Good evening. Already a lot of very wet and windy weather across Britain today, and more to come through tonight, tomorrow and again on Monday morning too. Damaging winds for some, and certainly the risk of more localised flooding. Overnight tonight we'll keep a lot of rain across the north and west of Britain. Some very strong winds indeed through this red zone there. Gusts of wind around 80 miles per hour there. Further south, windy too with some showers, but the heaviest rain probably across northern parts tonight. This is how we'll start the day tomorrow. We'll find some sunny spells for many central and eastern areas, but they won't last long. There's another area of very wet weather to come whizzing in from the west through the day. Again, some gale force winds, especially around southern coastal areas later in the day. Here's the summary.
Power Gen. Power, whatever the weather. It is a time that many cannot remember, whilst others can never forget.